In this video, we are going to review the hip truss designs for Training Plan 3. Let's start off by zooming in on the garage area and begin with reviewing our girder truss labeled D01-G. We can simply double-click on the truss, which opens it up in design mode. For this particular truss, we want to change our bottom chord to a 2x6 since it's carrying the jack trusses, along with a few other changes. Let's Control-click to select both of the bottom chords. Then right-click and select Edit Lumber. Here we will change the dimensions to a 2x6. Next, we're going to select the top chord, then right-click and select Drop Flat Top Chord. Make sure the thickness is set to 1.5 inches at the 8/12 slope. This truss will support the end of lay-in purlins, so make sure to check the box. Click Drop to apply the changes. Now let's add verticals at the shoulder joints and adjust the webbing in the middle. So let's press the Control button and drag across the 4 web members and press Delete. Next, we will add in our new members. So let's right-click and select Member. We're going to insert a member to the right side. To do so, double-click to select the vertical reference line at the right end of T2. Then we need to change the alignment. Right-click and click on Geometry. Then we need to select right of line so it aligned to the right side. While W1 is still selected, let's go over to the Properties panel and review the top cuts. Here we will delete the cut against T2. Next, let's add another member to the left end of T2. Right-click and select Member. Then double-click on the vertical reference line at the left end of T2. Then we need to change the alignment. Right-click and click on Geometry. Then we need to select left of line so it is aligned on the left side. While the new vertical web is still selected, review the top cuts in the Properties panel. This time, we will delete the cut against T2. Notice that the cut is removed from the properties. We will now add webs between the verticals. Let's add a reference line, which will be used for our diagonal webs. Right-click and select Reference Line. We want this reference line to be centered between the vertical, so select the leftmost side of the W2 and then the rightmost side of W1. This will divide the panel in two. Here we will add a member from the bottom right inside corner of W2 to where the reference line intersects the bottom edge of T2. With the new web still selected, press Shift and cut against the reference line. Next, we will repeat this for the other side. Right-click and select Member. Then place the member from the bottom left inside corner of W1 to where the reference line and the bottom edge of T2 meet. Let's reanalyze this truss. Select Detailed Analysis from the gear icon and then select Analyze. Here we can see the loads being applied from the carried components. Let's review the carried components from the Collections panel. Notice all of the connections are applied to the bottom chord. This is because the carried jack trusses are closed. Next, scroll down to access the Hangers menu and click Select Hangers. This will auto-select hanger solutions and display them on the bottom chord. To change a hanger, select it from the Collections panel and change the hardware to the desired hanger. For this example, we'll change the LUS24 to LUS26. Click on the LUS24 and then select LUS26 from the list. Notice, the scene is updated to reflect the change. Next, let's reanalyze the hip girder. Looks like our hip girder is now good, and we are ready to move on. Let's return to the layout and take care of these additional hip trusses. So double-click on D02. Select the top chord, then right-click, and select Drop Flat Top Chord. Then we need to click Drop to accept this at the bottom. Next, we will shift the vertical webs to cut against the sloping top chords. Select W2, right-click, and click Geometry, and then we will select Left of Line. With the vertical still selected, hold Shift and select the bottom edge of T1 to add a cut, and then click the bottom edge of T2 to remove the cut. Repeat this for W5. Select W5, right-click, select Geometry, and then select Right of Line. With the vertical selected, hold Shift and select the bottom edge of T3 to add a cut, and then click the bottom edge of T2 to remove the cut. Click Analyze to finalize this design. We are good here. Let's go back to our layout. We are going to double-click the D03 truss to open it up. Here, we will select the top chord. Then right-click and select Drop Flat Top Chord. Click Drop at the bottom to apply the change. Next, we'll shift the vertical webs to cut against the sloping top chords. Select W3, right-click in the Geometry option, and then select Left of Line. With the vertical still selected, hold Shift and select the bottom edge of T1 to add a cut. And then click the bottom edge of T2 to remove the cut. Repeat this for W5. Select W5, right-click, click on Geometry, and select Right of Line from the options. With the vertical still selected, hold Shift and select the bottom edge of T3 to add a cut, and the bottom edge of T2 to remove the cut. Analyze this truss. And everything looks good with D03. Return to the layout and double-click on our D04 truss to open this last one in our D-series trusses. Once again, we will drop the top chord, so select the top chord and then right-click and select Drop Flat Top Chord. Then select Drop to accept. Similar to the previous flat top common trusses, let's add vertical members at the pitch breaks. Rather than adding vertical webs, we'll modify the existing diagonal webs by making them vertical. We'll start by deleting W3, then right-click toward the bottom of W2, and then select Move Lower End to make vertical. That rotates an existing member to be vertical. Next, right-click toward the bottom of W3 and select Move Lower End to make vertical. This saves a few steps in editing and adding in a new member. Now we need to add a couple diagonal webs. Right-click, select Member. We will add a member back in for the left side of W2. Let's create a web between the bottom of W1 and the top of W2. We will clean up the connections here. We will cut this back by holding Shift and then cut against the reference line, and then B1. Let's create another member between W3 and W4. Right-click, select Member, and create a web between the top of W3 and the bottom of W4. Let's clean this up. While holding Shift, we will cut this against B2 and the reference line. That looks better. Let's analyze this one and see what we have. All right, that does it for those D hip set members. Let's take a look in 3D for our D-series trusses. Here we can see our modified webbing and dropped flat top chords we added. Next, we are going to use many of the same tools to optimize the E-series trusses. Pan over to the rear porch area and zoom in on the porch to focus our efforts here. Let's begin editing. Double-click the E01-G truss, select the bottom chord, then right-click and select Edit Lumber. Here we will change this to a 2x6. Next, select the top chord, then right-click and select Drop Flat Top Chord. Notice the crossing slope is set to 612. Click to add the option for supports ends of lay-in purlins, which affects the vertical drop distance. Then click Drop to accept these changes. We're also going to adjust the diagonal webs to be vertical members at each pitch break. Let's start on the left side. Right-click near the bottom of W1 and select Move Lower End to make this one vertical. With the member selected, change the location to Left of Line by right-clicking and then select Geometry. Then click on Left of Line. Press Shift and click the edge of T1 and then on T2 to clean up the cuts. We will repeat this on the right. Right-click near the bottom of W2 and select Move Lower End to make vertical. With the member selected, right-click and select Geometry. From the options, change the location to be right of line. Press Shift and click the edge of T3 and then on T2 to finalize the joint. We need a diagonal web between the verticals. To add this, let's right-click, select Member, and then add the member between W1 and W2. Let's review the carried components over in the Properties panel. Slide down to the carried components and you will notice there are 10 entries, which include both top and bottom chord connections. This is because the carried components are open jacks, which will be toe-nailed at the top and bottom chords. Next, we will add the hangers. To do this, click the Hangers menu at the right and select Hangers. TJC 37s were auto-selected to carry the corner girders. Finally, let's analyze the truss. Everything looks good here. Move back over to the layout, and we will double-click the E02 truss and make a few adjustments. Here we are going to select the top chord, then we will right-click and select Drop Flat Top Chord to drop it, and then select Drop at the bottom to accept the changes. We need to make a few other modifications to this truss. Starting with W1, right-click and select Geometry. Here we will choose left of line. Next, press Shift and add a cut against T1, and then we will click T2 to remove the cut. Repeat this for W3. Right-click, select Geometry, and choose right of line. Then we will press the Shift key and add a cut against T3, and then we will click T2 to remove this cut. There we go. Let's reanalyze this one. And all looks good. We hope this video provided you with some practical examples of how to drop top chords, add and modify webs, and adjust member cuts. Thanks for watching.